Welcome to Virtual Roundtable Live, streamed live, sponsored by Tegile Systems, and hosted by Curtis Preston. Today, Curtis speaks to 3 Tegile clients about their lessons learned after applying Flash to their VDI environments. Please enter your questions in the panel below, and we'll also give away a quadricopter to one lucky attendee. Now, without further ado, let me send it over to Curtis. Curtis.
Thanks, David. I want to thank all of our distinguished panelists here, and I'm just going to jump right into it and not waste any time. I do want to say hoop hoop for California. I'm from Southern California here myself, and then we also have apparently a Colorado guy here. So we'll let you in. So first off, and I'm going to start with Matt. Tell us a little bit about your environment and specifically the legacy storage that you had before you made any changes.
Great, yeah. So it's a mid-sized college with 10,000 students, and therefore we have administrative systems running everything to make things happen for them. That used to be about 70 separate servers running on XIO as our storage, and we were frankly quite happy with the resiliency and the quality and the lack of need to maintain those systems. But when we started down a project to virtualize that entire environment, we found that we needed something entirely different.
So it was basically virtualization that led your project to look at something different.
Yeah, specifically it was VDI. We probably could have still lived with XIO for just the pure virtualization of our servers, but when we discovered the need and speed for virtual desktops and our desire to make sure that environment was just as fast, and really that we didn't want our users to know there was anything different going on behind the scenes, then we realized that we really needed to go to hybrid or all SSD. And at that point, we were introduced to a number of other vendors in the space.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. And next, I'll go to Brian.
We have about, I think, 700 desktops and digital signs, as well as about 200 servers. When we first started off, we mostly had HP mass storage arrays, as well as some local RAID arrays. When I first arrived about 4 years ago, all our servers were virtualized, but we hadn't started haven't started on virtual desktops yet. Things were going pretty well. I think when we first started experimenting with virtual desktops and getting a feel for it, though, we found very quickly that that traditional storage wasn't going to give us good performance. So that's also when we started looking into 2 other options as far as what was going to speed things up for us.
Cool. And last but not least, Sam.
Yeah, we really had pretty much the same experience. We were in our environment. We have 236 dental chairs where our students and faculty see patients every day, and really, getting all of those applications up and running in a timely manner was a huge issue for us. We really saw, slow logins, a lot of pain with patients in the chair waiting for, on our old storage units, there were Equalogics, and just couldn't keep up with the load that we were seeing for the kind of response that we were hoping for.
So if I can summarize that correctly, it sounds like both Matt and Brian, you had an upcoming VDI project, and Sam, it sounded like you had an already implemented and you were seeing problems. Is that a good summary, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, it was. I think it was Matt. You were the one that said you hoped to have the same performance in your virtual desktop environment as you had in your physical one. Was that correct?
Correct.
And that was certainly a lofty goal that I don't that I don't think everybody has achieved. So that's a pretty good reason. Now it's not going to come as a surprise to the attendees that the answer that the three of you chose was Tegile because Tegile is sponsoring the webinar and all of that. But I guess the question that I have is, what was that moment when you said, when you made that decision? Some people call it the aha moment. What was that moment when you said definitely that this particular solution is the one that's going to meet your needs? And I'll start with Sam.
Yeah, we looked at a lot of other solutions, some all-flash solutions, some brand new cutting-edge kind of systems that were using all new file systems and all new everything. And because we see patients, because we have customers that are paying us to get things done correctly, we like to be on the cutting edge, but not the bleeding edge. We like to have everything stable and have everything working and make sure that things just are acting how they should. And when we saw the Tegile unit, we were really impressed because it had all the performance of everything else out there and then some, but also because it's building on existing technologies that are proven and are stable. And being able to just go in and work with something like that and not have any issues with it has just been a real pleasure for us.
Okay, how about you, Matt?
It really was a combination of factors. We really didn't know what we had bitten off when we started down a VDI project, and our goal was to have 3,000 desktops ultimately. And as we got to about the 1,000 desktop mark, our systems really started to slow down. And so when we reached out to find a different technology in which to do this with, we found in Tegile a firm that understood higher ed, was actually friendly to higher ed, which is not an easy thing to do. And second was, frankly, the cost per desktop there was just no comparison with the traditional respected, the known names in industry that we wanted to bet our future and our jobs on. It was so much less expensive and so much faster. And then you added the fact that it was a highly configurable environment and that they were higher ed friendly. There almost was no other choice for us.
Yeah, let's talk about the higher ed friendly thing there. As a person who has started a company that helps get out information. I mean, Truth in IT. We try to given the name, we try to make sure that the stuff that's getting out there is true. But in the end, the people that are paying the bills are people like Tegile, and we do see different companies have a different attitude towards marketing towards higher ed companies. So that's an interesting thing, an observation that you made, that you said that one of the things that you found that was your aha moment was that they were friendly towards the way you do business.
Yeah, so I used to come. I was in the higher ed. Sorry, I was an employee of a vendor that sold software into higher education.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the dark side really well.
Right.
At least what we now refer to as the dark side being inside of higher ed.
Yeah.
And so what I have tried to do since that time, when I engage with a vendor, I'm very transparent about what I need. I'm very transparent about what I expect from them. And I try to find out what other higher education clients they have, because frankly, higher ed is different. Our sales cycle is different, meaning that when we buy something, when we renew something, we're always going to plead poverty because there's always something else to spend that dollar on.
Mm-hmm.
And having someone that truly understands what a partnership is important to us, because we tend as institutions to not try to bend any agreement that we ever have. We're for the most part very upfront and honest with what we agree we're going to pay for and what we're going to use, and therefore we expect the vendors to also honor their agreement. And I just found through conversations with the eLumen the Tegile executives, and even down to the salespeople and the engineers, they were extremely upfront, very transparent, and really wanted to know what my needs were and wanted to then make sure that they met them.
And yeah, that's really interesting. And when people are on the dark side, they never know they're on the dark side, so it's okay. You can call it, you could call it the dark side. How about you, Brian?
I think the aha moment was the first bit of storage that we got for virtual desktops was more tiered. It actually wasn't a Tegile device. And when we were looking at the performance of the solid state, we thought, okay, this is going to be overkill, and this will make everything really, really quick. And when we first started putting desktops on it, it was definitely faster than the traditional storage, but at the same time, we weren't seeing the kind of numbers we expected. And when we started analyzing it, one thing we noticed was that the link clone desktops, because we're using VMware View, that share that parent image, were performing much, much faster than the traditional desktops. So when we were looking at that, we realized, okay, well, that makes sense. It's smaller image. It can be more on the solid state cache, run quicker. So it seemed like the problem wasn't so much that the disks weren't fast enough. It's just that they weren't being utilized. So right around the time we had that epiphany, so to speak, we met Tegile, and they kind of explained, we can do compression. That'll let you get more use out of your solid state. That's what we found to be the case.
So yeah, that's interesting. It brings up an interesting question. So now that the three of you, so are you all now post implementation with your VDI project? Okay.
Yes.
And so when we talk about, and I'm not a VDI expert. Well, I'm not even a VDI amateur. I'll just say that. But there are, as I understand, there are the two different ways, right? The linked clone you talked about, and then what's the other method?
I usually call them persistent.
Yeah,
desktops.
Persistent desktops, right? So of the three of you, who's using persistent desktops and who's using linked clones? So Matt, so you're still using linked clones?
We do both. So for a lot of our administrative users, they didn't trust a non-persistent desktop because they wanted to be able to still store things on their quote-unquote desktops in the folders they created, and therefore we gave them a persistent desktop that would in fact persist. And ironically, the first guinea pig of that was our president, and he has absolutely loved it and doesn't want to ever go back. And then for our students and for our labs, large area computers, it just makes more sense for those to be cloned.
Right. And how about you, Brian?
The same thing. We use a mix, and it depends on the use case. So in a case where you have a lot of desktops that would have the exact same kind of setup, we use link clones, and if not, then we use persistent.
Okay. And Sam?
For the most part, we are using link clones. We have a few exceptions to that, but primarily because we're delivering our applications out to chair side where the students are working on patients. We have a pretty specific need that can be addressed with a single image.
I just can't help, as a person who has a hard enough time going to a regular dentist, the idea of going to a dental student just absolutely terrifies me. But that's a whole different issue. So is there a difference of between the linked clones and the persistent desktops from a performance standpoint, or is it purely the issue of wanting to have your own your own data as part of the image? I'll start with Matt there.
To us, there is no performance difference. It's literally just a preference of experience.
Okay. Brian?
I think a lot of times the reason you would do a link clone is more to keep the image consistent. And then if you didn't have something that did dedupe, like Tegile would do, there can be some advantages in terms of performance. But for the most part, running on Tegile, they're pretty similar.
Okay. And Sam?
Yeah, really no difference. Our link clones are the majority of the workload that we see. So we tend to focus more effort on those.
Okay. Yeah, I think the reason why I asked that question is I think that without a solution like the one you got, I think the difference in performance could be quite different. Do you guys think that would be the case? Because isn't that it was Brian, right? Isn't that what you said was that you found that the performance with the linked clones was a lot better.
Yeah.
And so that's okay. Gotcha. But now you don't see a or a difference in performance, so it allows the customer to make the decision based on functionality and the other reasons you talked about, rather than, well, we need to have a persistent desktop or a linked clone in order to get good performance.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, before we had the Tegile unit, we were seeing performance issues just with linked clones, and now, our IOPS, there's no issues with IOPS. The unit can handle everything we can throw at it, so it really opened up a lot more opportunities for us to expand and do new things that we had never considered before.
That's good to hear. What about other lessons learned, Sam? I'll just let you keep on talking. Any other lessons learned that from this experience?
Yeah, it's just been a really, really great for me. When I started this job here 2 years ago, they had already purchased the unit and it was in place and starting to be used. And my background comes from, more Linux sysadmin, not so much storage. And to be able to jump in and, within a few days of just seeing the interface and learning, the real core basics of how to administer storage, I was able to get up and running and maintain it. And, I'm the exclusive storage admin here now. And it's a big title for me. But, the ease of use for the unit has been outstanding.
Well, that's a good. It's mentioned because I look down here. I see that we have a question from the audience, and they were asking, because we haven't talked about ease of use. We've talked about mainly about performance. So you think it's so? I think that's a great question for you. That since you haven't come to this from the storage side of things, it sounds like you would say yes to that question.
Absolutely. But before this job, I had done partitioning. I had done, just real basic desktop level drive management. And to jump in and immediately be able to say, okay, let's make a new one. Let's spin up these new servers, and it just works. You don't have to figure out how it all mingles together and do anything special. So.
Cool. Anybody else want to jump in on that? Either Matt or Brian?
Sure, I will. I would echo that the wizard for setting things up on the web interface is pretty easy, pretty basic question. And then I would add in that if you do run into any problems or questions about what settings to be used, I found it was really easy to contact support and get some feedback, whether that's by phone, email, that kind of thing.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add a couple things to that. So, when we started this project, we couldn't spell virtualization. Honestly, my staff they'd done very little of it on the server side, and they had done none of it on the VDI side. So we really, it was quite foolish for us to actually take on a project we did, because it was big.
Which is probably why you had the goal of having the same performance, right? Because a lot of other people might have not had that goal. It was like, oh, that's not going to work. But yeah, you guys you didn't know what you didn't know. That's
exactly it. And frankly, we took some things on the chin because of that lack of experience. But because we had no preconceived notions about who we should be talking to or what we should expect from those people we were talking to, we looked at the gambit, right? So we looked at converged, we looked at VDI in a box, we looked at the individual pieces and parts and what it would take to get those to coordinate. And we learned that for our environment, we really wanted to have the freedom to be able to have a relationship separate with our hypervisor than with that of our storage and with that of our servers, that we wanted to have the ability to coordinate that and add in one area without adding in the other. Second thing that we learned was that there is many different ways to skin the cat, so to speak, and when we really started getting into the need for both storage of our compute, or our normal servers, as well as storage for our VDI, we didn't want to have two different technologies. We wanted to have one, and so having something that gave us that hybrid environment that gave us the speed for VDI, but the block size that was the most efficient for our our systems that would want to store information for a long time and never, rarely be touched. That really shortened the list of the kind of vendors that we should be talking to.
So, again, looking at the list of questions here, somebody else also asked about whether or not any of you are using it for things other than VDI. So I'll go back to you, Matt. It sounded like you are.
Yes. Yep. We now own 2 different Zebi trays, which is the name of the product that Tegile provides, and one of those is dedicated to just compute, and the other is dedicated to VDI. And then since then, we've added an all SSD tray from Tegile to now add to what we needed for our VDI, because it's one of the learning curves in VDI is, even with the link clones, or what I call non-persistent, instead of having 100 gigs associated with a student, I can now reduce that to less than 20, and in most cases that's actually 5. So even though I've been able to compress and reduce the amount of storage per user, I have a lot of users on my campus on any given semester, and so adding all of those individual users up, we're finding that we needed more space than we wanted, which then leads us back to having a vendor that's resilient, that's fast, but also reasonably priced was the right combination for us.
Cool. And Brian?
What lessons have we learned?
Well, because we didn't hear that from you. So let's go back, and then So 2 questions. So the lessons learned, and then also, are you doing anything else other than VDI on your Tegile arrays at this point?
Okay. As far as lessons learned, I think I would echo what Sam said earlier. In terms of after we got up and running, at first the reason we chose Tegile was for the performance and the opportunity to utilize that SSD more efficiently. But as we started using it, we started to really appreciate how stable it was compared to other arrays we had. So looking back, I think making sure that it's going to be stable, using a lot of references and asking specifically about stability would be a big thing to focus on. As far as what else we're using apart from VDI, we're also using it for our database servers, as well as web servers and some application servers.
And how's that? Any interesting things there?
Those areas are kind of outside of where I work. I know that performance has increased, but I can't give you very many details here.
Okay. So what about replication? Is anybody replicating? I'll just ask you to raise your hand. Anybody? I'm looking. All right. So we'll go to Matt. Talked about replication, and what are you using to do the replication?
So we're using replication strictly for the reasons of backup and disaster recovery.
Backup. I'm sorry. I heard the word backup. I got excited. Go ahead.
So we have 3 different campus centers and relationships with 112 other community colleges, and as a result, we have a lot of choices to back up or create a DR site for what we're doing here. So we're using a combination of Tegile and Veeam to then move all of our data and some of our compute to another location, so that at any given moment we could spin up pretty quickly and fail over to those sites.
It's interesting. You mentioned community colleges. So my daughter, well, actually, as of yesterday, my other daughter just graduated. She'll be going there as well. We have the Miracosta Community College here in Oceanside, and do you know what on Spotify they have an ad? Do you know what the Miracosta ad says about Miracosta?
No.
It says it's the Harvard of community colleges. Which I thought, wow, that's bold. Anyway, when you mentioned community colleges, I just couldn't help. I tell people that Miracosta is Spanish for look at the cost. So Let's just do final words. I'll start with you, Brian. You have any final words for us?
I think big thing would be would kind of echo what Matt said earlier about the sales reps and engineers at Tegile being really upfront in terms of helping to talk to you about what your expectations would be. So I think Tegile's specialty being dedupe and compression. Not all data is going to dedupe well. Not all data would compress well, and some I/O patterns are going to benefit from read and write cache more than others. So talking to them in depth about what you're going to be using it for will help you make a right purchase.
Cool. Matt?
Well, let me just sort of end with an anecdotal story. When we were in the middle of this decision, we received a visit from and we were close enough that this was possible, to Tegile's headquarters, but one of the top founders and executives came down and gave us a visit. Now, we knew why he was there, right? Because it was end of quarter, and they wanted us to make a decision in their favor. And he was with me for probably 2.5, maybe 3 hours, and the question was never asked, are you going to buy us? He did ask me about my project, about my needs, about my students, what's the long-term vision. The entire time, his phone was lighting up with, I'm sure, end of term communications, and he never even looked at his phone. So, and I'm not that big of a client, right? I'm just a unknown small 2-year college in California. So there were definitely bigger fish to fry, and ones that he could have paid attention to. And the fact that he never asked the question, on top of the fact that we'd already made the decision to go with Tegile, they just didn't know it, was just a good tell for me that this was the kind of company I want to do business with.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sort of violates the ABC, always be closing, right? So all right, and so it pains me, but we're gonna end with the Colorado guy. So Sam, any final words?
Yeah, we looked at a lot of products, and the product that Tegile is selling really is top notch. Not only is the technology there, the case is absolutely gorgeous. I love just looking at the case in our But aside from that, the thing that really gets us is the product can be there, but if there's not someone backing it up when an issue comes up, and issues always will come up, if there's not someone backing it up and being there when you need support and being there to help you get more of them if you need more of them, then the product's not worth it. And in this case, we've engaged the Tegile sales team, we've engaged the Tegile support team, and they've always been right where we need them, always helpful and always responsive. And to me, that's really what makes a product more than the technology. And we've had great experiences so far.
Cool, thanks a lot. And I want to thank everybody who submitted questions. Due to trying to fit this within a certain time slot, we didn't have time to get to all of them. We will make sure that someone from Tegile will get back to you on your questions. I'll look at them and see if there's anything that I need to respond to. And I want to thank our panelists, and I will turn things back over to David.
All right, Curtis, thank you. And thanks, guys, for being such a great panel, and thank everybody for taking the time to join us. As Curtis said, if we didn't get to the outstanding questions, and there are actually many of them, so we apologize. We will have someone from Tegile get back to you right away with answers. Also, don't forget to visit tegile.com. That's Tegile.com to get additional info. And also, the video of this stream will be posted at tegile.com as well as truebit.tv. And we'll reach out to you and let you know when that's available. So on behalf of Tegile and Truth in IT, we want to thank everyone for attending. We'd also like to thank our speakers, Curtis Preston, Brian Hammett, Samuel Wheeler, and Matt Coombs. Also, a winner has been selected out of our audience to win the quadricopter, and we'll be contacting that lucky attendee shortly. If you weren't the winner today, please check out our other upcoming webinars and virtual roundtable live events at truthinit.com. Please also don't forget to visit backupcentral.com, the largest independent community of backup and recovery professionals, as well as truthinit.com to find a nearby city where you can attend one of our free live seminars, either Truth in Backup or Truth in Storage, letting you know about the latest backup and recovery and storage technologies. Truth in IT's mission is to help IT professionals sift through the hype and get to the truth about technologies, tech companies, and best practices. We hope we delivered on that mission today. And for now, thanks again everyone watching. Have a great day, and we wish you all success in your search for the truth in IT.